Hey guys, welcome to Topical. Nate here, and today I'm doing my top 5 favorite guilty pleasure movies. Movies that I know objectively they're not great, not good by any stretch of the imagination, but I just personally really enjoy them, whether it is for nostalgia's sake or because I think they're so bad they're good, or because there's just like certain things about them that I really dig. I tried to stay away from movies that are in this category that have achieved like a cult status, because that means there are a lot of people that do like them. So with the recent resurgence of, like, I would have put Phantom Menace on this because I know it's objectively a bad movie, but like the prequel trilogy has like received a lot of love over the last couple of years, so that eliminated that. There's maybe one or two that kind of break that rule, but I don't care because it's my list. Number 5 for me is a movie that I know very few people that have seen, despite the fact that it has one now very big name movie star, although he wasn't at the time, and one moderate movie, like people know her name, but the movie is Push, and it has Captain America in it, and was it Dakota or Elle?
6.5 hours later.
One of the Fanning sisters is in that movie. But I don't really like superhero movies anymore. I'm like super burnt out on them. But this one has a very different take. It breaks up. Like, no one really gets more than one power. And it kind of breaks them up. But it's just like something about the vibe of this movie. It was like really, really good to me. I really dig it. It's kind of dark. It's kind of grimy. It's very like underworld-ish. Not like literally like about hell or anything like that, but it's very like everyone else is living in the normal world, and there's this like shit going on underneath it that nobody else really knows about. Kind of has a similar like feel to it as Wanted, if you're familiar with that movie. But Push is really cool. I really, really enjoy it. Brings me a lot of pleasure watching it. I like the way it ends. I find the characters pretty interesting. And I really like the power system that they created within the movie. So that's my number 5. Number 4 for me is The Lost World Jurassic Park. I was really sad the first time I rewatched that movie as an adult and realized like how not very good it is. But I freaking love Jurassic Park, the first one. It is maybe my most favorite movie of all time. I really, really love it. I think that movie is near perfect.
You're not wrong.
And so when I was a kid and The Lost World Jurassic Park came out, I didn't know what a bad movie was. All I knew was that I was getting more of the stuff that I loved before, and things that I hadn't gotten yet. I get new dinosaurs. I got to learn more about Dr. Ian Malcolm, even though he's not very Dr. Ian Malcolm-y in The Lost World Jurassic Park. The freaking raptor scene where they're like going through the tall bushes and stuff is absolutely insane. Even though the scene includes the stupid like gymnastics scene, it is still really cool. Like that scene is very tense where they're in the little shacks and the raptors are trying to get to them and stuff. So lots of things that I really, really love in that movie. Obviously, we get a lot of T-Rex in that movie. And it also kind of led to what Jurassic World ended up being a lot, because that is the first movie where a dinosaur makes it to like the mainland in normal society and stuff like that. And imagining being a kid and looking outside and there being a fucking T-Rex in my backyard was the coolest thing in the world to me.
That's fair.
So I still really enjoy The Lost World Jurassic Park. I wish they had just stopped with the first one, but I don't mind it so much, I guess. Then number 3 for me is going to be Robin Hood Men in Tights. I really love Mel Brooks. Mel Brooks has made some of my favorite movies. I think he's hilarious. There's really not like many Mel Brooks movies that I just think are not funny.
It's debatable!
Men in Tights is like, yeah, I know objectively this isn't a great movie, but it has the Dread Pirate Roberts in it. So like that was a really cool pop for me, because that was like one of the first, because I saw Princess Bride and this movie when I was pretty young, and that was one of the first times that I like recognized an actor from another movie that wasn't like Jim Carrey or Robin Williams or Eddie Murphy or someone like that. So that made me like it. And I also just like watched this movie with my dad a lot growing up because he also thinks it's hilarious and he has an incredibly juvenile sense of humor. So I thought it was funny because he thought it was funny. And there is also a lot of stuff in that movie that I think is absolutely funny. I remember I got a portable CD player for my birthday one year. I was really stoked. And my dad had recently discovered LimeWire. So constantly downloading music. And he made me a CD of songs that he knew that I liked. But the last song on the CD that he made me was the freaking song from Men in Tights. And I thought that shit was hilarious because now I could walk around everywhere listening to the Men in Tights song. And it was freaking great. So, big fan of that movie. Number 2 for me is In Time with Justin Timberlake and Amanda Seyfried. I don't really understand why people don't like this movie. Maybe they were just expecting it to be a little more serious than it is. I will admit there are a lot of like really stupid time-related puns in this movie that don't always necessarily fit. But I love movies that like take place in a world that for the most part looks like my world, but there's just like something completely different about it. And I think the idea of like time being literal currency is like really, really fascinating. And then you throw in the whole like everyone stops aging at like 27 or whatever it is. Just gets really confusing because everyone's walking around with like 27-year-old looking moms and grandmas and stuff. But the twists and turns that movie takes are really interesting. The like time police with like Cillian Murphy is like super interesting. I love movies that are kind of about like the poor versus the rich and corrupt systems and like systems that are made to like oppress certain people just for others' benefit get taken down. It's really interesting. It kind of ends with this whole like Bonnie and Clyde thing. So I really like In Time a lot, and I think people should give it more of a chance than they do. But number 1 for me was, didn't even have to think about it, absolute no-brainer. I freaking love watching this movie. I think it's hilarious. The quotes from it, for me, are spectacular, and I think it's mostly just because I have friends who also really just enjoy and love quoting this movie. But it's absolutely Batman and Robin. And I think this movie is probably on a lot of people's guilty pleasure list. Unless you're just like this hardcore Batman fan and you just have this idea of what Batman needs to be and you just can't fathom that they did that. But again, I was a little kid when I watched this. Like, I thought it was great. It was so funny to me. I don't know why. I just really enjoy Uma Thurman as Poison Ivy.
Yeah, boy.
But the script is terrible. The one-liners are freaking out of this world. It's so bad, but it is so good. And I love the Gotham that exists in this movie because obviously they kind of built it off of the 2 Tim Burton movies. But this one is just like even more cartoony and comic booky. And it just brings me a lot of pleasure and a lot of joy watching this movie and listening to this movie and quoting this movie. And just really appreciating it in general. But those are my top 5 guilty pleasure movies. Let me know what yours are down in the comment section below. Scroll back up, hit the like button, and subscribe.
It's not a game, it's a rich thing.